There is a premise that I want you to consider. It is a harsh one if you are older than 55 years old. There is a this that you must avoid, not just with your capital, but with every fiber of your intellectual honesty. And the tragedy, the one I observe over and over, is that almost no one does. They walk right into the trap. They spend 40 years building a life, a reputation, and a portfolio. And then in the final innings, they set it all on fire. And they do it not because of a bad market, not because of a political party, not because of some external force. They do it because they succumb to this. What is this? It is not a specific investment. It is not real estate. It is not crypto. It is not annuities. Those are just the symptoms. Those are the tools the foolish mind uses to express its foolishness. No, this is a sickness of the mind. This is the delusion of arrival. It is the catastrophic ego, soothing belief that you are done, the belief that you have arrived at a final destination, that you have accumulated enough wisdom, enough wealth, and enough experience, that you can finally stop, that you can put the mind in neutral, that you've earned the right to be intellectually lazy. The moment you believe this, you are finished. You just haven't fallen over yet. You have become a walking corpse. You have become the market. As next meal, the world is a dynamic, brutal, and competitive place. It does not care about your age. It does not care that you are tired. It does not care about your past victories. The market and life is a perpetual motion machine. It is a treadmill, and the moment you decide you are done, running the treadmill does not stop with you. It simply flings you off the back into the wall. And this is what I see time and time again. The person over 55 doesn't fail because they are old. They fail because they become rigid. They become certain. They stop being a learning machine and they start being a museum of their own past opinions. And a museum is a place where things go to die. You must avoid this. You must avoid the belief that the game is over, that the learning is finished, because the game is never over and the learning is never ever finished. This delusion, this arrival sickness manifests in several ways. The most common, and perhaps the most seductive, is the trap of comfort. You've worked your whole life for it. The house is paid off. The children are educated. The portfolio has a certain number of zeros after it. You have achieved comfort, and this comfort is the most dangerous narcotic known to man. Comfort is an anesthetic for the rational mind. The very attributes that got you the comfort, the discipline, the skepticism, the hunger, the willingness to be wrong, the energy to learn, are the first casualties of having the comfort. The human brain is not designed to be comfortable. It is a survival tool. It is designed to solve problems, to hunt, to adapt. When you remove all the problems, when you insulate yourself with a thick blanket of financial security, the brain does not rejoice. It atrophies, it begins to decay. The 55-year-old mind, anesthetized by comfort, stops thinking about growth and starts thinking only about protection. This sounds wise, does teeted. I am in the capital preservation stage, but what are you preserving? You think you are preserving your money. What you are really doing is preserving your current state of ignorance. You stop challenging your own assumptions. Why would you? It is uncomfortable. It introduces anxiety. It is so much easier to believe that what you know is all one needs to know. You stop reading difficult books. You stop engaging with people who disagree with you. You curate your world to reflect your own biases. You build an echo chamber and call it a study. You call this wisdom. It is not. It is intellectual sclerosis. It is the hardening of the arteries of the mind. This to avoid is the belief that your wealth is a shield. It is not. Your wealth is just a buffer. It is a longer runway. It simply allows you to be stupid for a lot longer than the 25-year. Old before you hit the ground. The comfortable person stops asking, what if I am wrong? They replace it with, look at all the evidence that I was right. This is the beginning of the end. The market loves to find the person who is certain. The market loves to find the person who is comfortable, because that person is predictable. And a predictable person is a source of liquidity for the person who is still thinking, still adapting, and still running. The comfortable mind mistakes familiarity for safety. It buys the same stocks it bought 20 years ago, not because the business is still excellent, but because the name is familiar. It avoids new technology, not because it has analyzed the risk, but because the language is unfamiliar. This is laziness masquerading as prudence. Do not let your comfort become your cage. The moment you feel set, the trap is set. True security does not come from the amount of capital you have. It comes from the resilience of your mind. And a comfortable mind has no resilience. It is brittle. It is waiting to shatter. The second manifestation of this arrival sickness is the polar opposite of comfort, but it springs from the same rotten root of ego. It is the worship of your own past. What is the heaviest anchor pulling the 55-year, old to the bottom of the sea? It is their own resume. It is their identity. For 30 years, you were the man who knew real estate. You were the woman who mastered marketing. You were the savvy investor who called the 2008 crash. This identity was your armor. It gave you status. It gave you confidence. It was you. And then the world changes. It always changes. Technology shifts. Consumer behavior evolves. The rules of the game are rewritten. The very things that made you a genius 10 years ago are now obsolete. The landscape has been redrawn, but your identity has not. The ego hates to be wrong. It despises looking foolish. Admitting that your hard-won expertise is now a relic is psychic death. It is terrifying. So, what does the 55-year-old mind do? The mind afflicted with arrival does not adapt. It does not unlearn. It doubles down. It defends the old map. It insists with increasing volume that the new landscape is wrong. This new technology is a fad. These kids don't know how the real works. It was different in my day. This is just a bubble. These are not statements of wisdom. They are the battle cries of a terrified ego. They are the sound of a mind that has chosen identity over reality. This to avoid is the worship of your sunk costs, not just your financial sunk costs, but your emotional and intellectual sunk costs. You have spent 30,000 hours becoming an expert in a field. You are invested in that expertise. The thought that those 30,000 hours might be irrelevant is so painful that you will engage in spectacular mental gymnastics to avoid facing it. You will become the stubborn fool. You will ridicule the new precisely because you are threatened by it. You will seek out the 2 or 3 experts who agree with you and call it research, while ignoring the mountain of evidence that contradicts you. This is not investing. This is not strategy. This is a tantrum. You must be willing to destroy your own best, loved ideas. You must be willing to look like a fool. You must be willing to say, I was wrong, or even more powerfully, I don't know. The person over 55 who cannot do this is a ticking time bomb. Their entire net worth is a bet that the world will stop changing. And that is the single worst bet in the history of mankind. Your resume is not an asset. Your past victories are not a guarantee. They are evidence of what was possible. They are not a map for what is possible. If your identity is tied to an old model, you will go down with the ship, screaming about how the iceberg had no right to be there. The rational mind, the mind that survives, is loyal to one thing and one thing only: What works, it has no loyalty to its own past. It is a mercenary for the truth. It does not care about its own ego. It only cares about the bottom line. It only cares about reality. This brings us to the third symptom. It is the most poisonous. It is the one that destroys families, ruins health, and vaporizes capital faster than any other. It is the poison of envy. There are two types of fools over 55. We have discussed the comfortable fool, the one who is too rigid to move. Now we must discuss the desperate fool. This person is not comfortable. They have reached 55, 60, or 65, and they have not arrived. They look at their balance sheet, and it is not what they dreamed it would be. They are behind, and they look around them. They look at their neighbor, their colleague, their brother-in-law, and they see someone who, through luck or discipline or both, did make it. This breaks their brain. The rational mind, the one that built whatever they have, is suddenly hijacked by the most primitive and powerful of emotions. Envy. Envy is the only sin that has no fun attached to it. It is pure acid for the soul. And this envy leads to the single most catastrophic error a person in the second half of life can make. The idiot-esque gamble, the last-ditch scramble. They must catch up. They must do it now. All the wisdom they supposedly accumulated over 30 years, the value of patience, the power of compounding, the danger of leverage, the stupidity of gambling, all of it is thrown into the garbage in a single afternoon. Why? Because the pain of feeling behind is greater than the fear of losing. So what do? They liquidate their retirement account to buy a speculative stock they cannot explain. They mortgage their paid-off house to invest in a canned tea. Business venture presented by a charismatic stranger. They pour their life savings into a digital currency whose name they heard at a barbecue. They are trying to compress 30 years of compounding into 30 days of blind, stupid luck. This is the fool, S. Aaron. It is the ultimate unforced error. You cannot get rich twice. This is a fundamental rule. The process of getting rich the first time is slow, boring, and requires immense discipline. If you lose it all at 60, the odds of rebuilding it are almost zero. The game is over. The game is over. This to avoid is the scramble. It is the one last shot. The moment you feel that hot flush of envy, the moment you hear that voice in your head that says, it is not fair and I have to do something, you must chain yourself to the mast. You must recognize that voice for what it is, the sound of your own ruin. The rational mind knows that the game is not about catching up to someone else. The game is about finishing. It is about playing your own hand with the cards you were dealt as rationally as possible. The desperate fool driven by envy is trying to play someone else's hand, and in doing so they discard their own. Do not be the desperate fool. Do not trade a good life for the chance at a perfect life. The math does not work. The risk is not worth the reward. It is the definition of insanity. Sufficient is a much more powerful word than more, but the envious mind can never understand sufficient. This leads to a related but distinct error. It is the arrogance of experience. People love to talk about their experience. They say, I have 30 years of experience in this market. And my question is always, so what is this experience you speak of? Is it truly 30 different years of learning, adapting, testing hypotheses, and updating your mental models? Or is it 1 year of experience repeated 29 times? This is the trap. Most people do not learn from experience. They are simply confirmed by it. They use experience as a database of anecdotes to justify the biases they already hold. They don't have experience. They have scar tissue. They got burned in 2000, so they still say all tech stocks are a bubble. They made money on a house in 1995, so they still say You can't lose money on real estate. This is not wisdom. This is superstition. This is the behavior of a pigeon in a box, pecking a button, believing its action caused the food to appear, when in reality, it was random. A lot of success in life is random. A lot of failure is random. The bull market hides the mistakes. The bear market punishes the innocent. The true learner, the rational mind, approaches their own experience with deep skepticism. They ask, did I really make a smart decision? Or did I just get lucky? Did I just happen to be standing in the right place when the tide came in? Did I really make a mistake? Or did I make a good, logical bet that just happened to fail this one time? This is hard. This requires an intellectual honesty that is deeply uncomfortable. It requires separating your ego from the outcome. The 55-year-old mind that has arrived cannot do this. For them, experience is a shield. It is a weapon. It is a way to end an argument. Listen to me, kid. I've got 30 years of experience. This is the death knell of a rational conversation. The this to avoid is the misinterpretation of your own past. Your experience is not a holy text. It is a deeply flawed, biased, and small n data set. It is corrupted by hindsight bias, confirmation bias, and survival bias. The person who worships their experience is a person who has stopped learning from the world. They believe their own personal tiny slice of history is the entirety of history. It is a spectacular form of arrogance. You must treat your experience as just one data point. You must combine it with vicarious experience. You must read. You must read history. You must read the biographies of people who failed. The person who only learns from his own mistakes is a fool. It is too expensive. The rational person learns from the mistakes of others. Your experience will not save you. It is more likely to be the very thing that blinds you. So we have the comfortable fool, the stubborn fool, the desperate fool, and the arrogant fool. What unites them? They have all stopped learning. They have allowed the most powerful tool in the universe, the human mind, to rust. The single most dangerous thing to do after 55, the this that underpins all other failures, is to stop being a learning machine. Most people, when they approach retirement, don't just retire from the office. They retire from thinking. They substitute being informed for learning. What is being informed? It is watching the shouting heads on television. It is scrolling through headlines on a phone. It is consuming outraged opinions on social media. This is not learning. This is noise. This is mental candy. It is worse than candy. It is an irritant. It is specifically designed to bypass your rational mind and plug directly into your emotional centers, your fear, your anger, your tribalism. It is designed to make you emotional, not rational learning. True learning is the opposite. Learning is hard. It is uncomfortable. Learning is reading a book from someone you disagree with and trying to honestly understand their argument. Learning is studying the annual report of a company in an industry you know nothing about. Learning is forcing your brain to process complex, multivariable problems without an easy answer. Learning is admitting ignorance, the 55-year ignorance. Old mind that has arrived stops doing this. It is too much work. They'd rather watch the news or play golf. And the mind, like any muscle, begins to atrophy. You must go to bed every night a little smarter than you were when you woke up. This is not a cute slogan. It is a mandate for survival. The world is, and always will be, run by those who continue to learn. The rest will be run over by them. You do not have the luxury of knowing enough. No one does. The person who thinks they know enough is simply announcing to the world that they are ready to be exploited. They are the low-hanging fruit. The this to avoid is the death of curiosity. You must remain curious. You must read. You must read history. You must read biographies. You must read science. You must read science. You must read things that have nothing to do with your career. Why? Because all the big ideas, all the big mistakes are interdisciplinary. The man who only knows finance will be blindsided by a change in psychology. The woman who only knows marketing will be blindsided by a change in technology. You must build a latticework of mental models. You must see the world as it is, a complex, interconnected system. The person who has arrived sees the world through one tiny, dirty window, and they are shocked when a baseball comes crashing through the wall. This leads to a further trap, the seduction of complexity. This is a peculiar failure mode of the smart 55-year-old. This person hasn't stopped learning, but they have channeled their learning in a perverse direction. They become obsessed with complexity as a substitute for clarity. The simple, boring, proven methods, they are beneath them. Buy a low-cost index fund and sit on it for 40 years. That is for amateurs. That is for the masses. Buy a good business at a fair price and hold it. Too simple. The 55-year-old sophisticate want something more. They want something that proves their intelligence. So they are drawn, like a moth to a bug zapper, to the most complex, opaque, and high-fee products the financial industry has ever invented. Structured notes, private equity funds with 100-page prospectuses, hedge funds using proprietary black box strategies, complex insurance products that combine 12 different features into one expensive, incomprehensible package. Why? Because understanding these things makes them feel smart. It separates them from the herd. They mistake complexity for edge. The reality is the opposite. In investing, complexity is almost always a cost. It is a way to hide fees. It is a way to obscure risk. The simplest solutions are often the most robust. The 55-year-old, in a desperate bid to prove they are still in the game, abandons the robust in favor of the brittle. They don't ask the simple, childlike questions. How exactly does this make money? What are all the fees? What has to go right for this to work? What happens if you are wrong? They are embarrassed to ask these questions. It would reveal that they don't understand the complex paper in front of them. Their ego will not allow them to admit ignorance. So they sign the paper, they wire the money. They have just paid an enormous stupidity tax to a Wall Street salesman, all to protect their own ego. This to avoid is the belief that complex problems require complex solutions. They rarely do. Most financial success is the result of applying simple fundamental principles with unrelenting discipline. The complex product is a siren song for the arrived, mind that needs to feel superior. Do not fall for it. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It is also the most difficult to practice. And this brings us to the final and most practical tool, the ultimate antidote to the delusion of arrival. It is the failure to invert. The human mind, by default, is a forward-thinking machine. We ask, what can I do to be successful? What can I do to be happy? What investment will make me the most money? These are the wrong questions. They are too complex. Success and happiness are vast, complicated, and mean different things to different people. The 55-year-old mind, the one that has arrived, is obsessed with these positive questions. They are always looking for the next big thing. They are looking for the secret. The wise mind, the Munguer-style mind, does the opposite. It inverts the problem. Instead of asking, how can I be successful? The wise mind asks, what will guarantee that I am a failure? What will guarantee I am miserable, stupid, and broke? Suddenly the problem becomes simple. The answers are crystal clear. How to guarantee you will be miserable, be envious, Compare yourself to others constantly. Let resentment be your fuel. How to guarantee you will be broke. Try to get rich quick. Use leverage you don't understand. Gamble on things you can explain. Follow hot tips. How to guarantee you will be stupid. Stop reading. Only listen to people who agree with you. Defend your ego at all costs. Blame others for your failures. See how easy that was. This to avoid is the failure to invert. Your job, especially after 55, is not to find the path to genius. Your job is to avoid all the lit, clearly marked paths to stupidity. Wisdom is not about finding the right answers. It is about the relentless daily avoidance of the wrong ones. The 55-year-old mind is full of experience. But what is that experience? Is it 30 years of learning? Or is it 1 year of learning repeated 29 times? Is that experience truly wisdom? Or is it just a collection of biases? Is it just the scar tissue from past mistakes that you misinterpreted? You must filter all your experience through the inversion test. You think you know real estate. Invert. What would guarantee you lose everything in real estate? Probably paying too much, using too much debt, and assuming the market only goes up. Are you doing any of those things? You think you are a great stock picker. Invert. What would guarantee you go broke in the market? Probably concentrating your entire portfolio in one company based on a feeling without reading the financials, and then falling in love with it. Are you doing that? This is the firewall. Inversion is the firewall against your own ego. So what is the task? What is the mandate? It is not a task of acquisition. It is a task of elimination. Your job after 55 is not to find the next big thing. Your job is to not do the stupid thing. Your job is to build a fortress of rationality against your own worst impulses. This we spoke of at the beginning. It is the sum of all these parts. It is the delusion of arrival. It is the anesthesia of comfort which dulls the mind. It is the worship of your own ego, your own resume, your own sunk costs. It is the acid of envy and the resulting desperate, idiotic gamble. It is the arrogance of experience, which is just superstition in a suit. It is the atrophy of your learning machine. It is the seduction of complexity, which is just a tax on the ego, and it is the catastrophic failure to invert the problem. This is the enemy. It is not the market. It is not the government. It is not the kids these days. It is the fool inside your own head. It is the voice that whispers, "You've earned it. You can relax. You know enough. You deserve it. It is not fair." That voice is the siren song, luring your ship onto the rocks. Your task is to plug your ears. Your task is to lash yourself to the mast of rationality and simple, brutal logic. The game is not over. It is simply the final level. And this level is not about accumulating more points. It is about not losing the points you have. It is about finishing the game with your dignity, your family, and your capital intact. This requires a different kind of discipline. It is not the discipline of hustle. It is the discipline of avoidance, the discipline to say no, the discipline to sit still, the discipline to sit still, the discipline to think, while everyone else is doing something foolish. This is the real work. This is the work most people are fundamentally unwilling to do. They would rather do something predictably stupid than sit still and be wise. The evidence is everywhere. Look around you, you see the comfortable fool, bragging about his golf game while his mind turns to tapioca. You see the desperate gambler, refreshing his crypto wallet, praying for a miracle. You see the stubborn expert, still fighting the battles of 1999. They are all different facets of the same debased coin. They have stopped thinking, they have arrived, they have allowed the rot to set in. Do not let it happen to you. The first step is recognizing the enemy, and the enemy is you. The enemy is your own comforting, ego-driven, envious, and lazy mind. Start the fight against it today. This conversation is the critical one. What is the single biggest mental error you see people make as they get older? What is the one single trap you are working to avoid? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. The quality of this discussion is what separates a learning community from a mere audience. If this framework provided value, if it forced even one moment of uncomfortable, necessary reflection, then share it. Share it with someone who needs to hear this dose of reality. Like this video, not for my sake, but so that others may find this firewall. The game is long. Do not make it shorter through avoidable, predictable, and thoroughly human stupidity. Continue your journey, continue to build your mind. The next video on your screen is a very good place to start.